Bert, I'll start with this. Why are the Patriots in the market for an elite receiver this year?
Because at some point over the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to want to take advantage of Drake Maye being in his rookie contract window, the same way, say like the Chiefs did when they went and got Sammy Watkins, or when Mahomes was on his rookie contract, the same way the Rams went and got Brandon Cooks when Jared Goff was on his rookie contract, the same way the Bills did with Stephon Diggs when Josh Allen was on his rookie contract. And the problem is you don't know when that opportunity is going to arise. So you have to be ready, whether it's now or a year from now, to strike when that sort of opportunity does become available. And this could be one of those chances. So I think they'd be open to it. Does it time up perfectly? Maybe not. Like maybe the perfect timing for it is to bring in that sort of guy after the guy's rookie year. But there's no guarantee that someone like this is going to be available in the offseason of 2025.
Now, what about the prevalence of receivers in the draft that, you would think the Patriots would have a top 10 pick next year. There's got to be receivers in the top 10 that are going to be in the top 10.
Because there are every year?
Because there are every year. I mean, Adunze and the kid from LSU and obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I was told there was 3 generational wide receiver prospects in this last draft, and that's after guys like Garrett Wilson and stuff have been taken.
And we've talked about why too, because it's just the best athletes are playing that position.
Sure,
now. Yeah.
Okay, so is the belief that we want someone, like a Stephon Diggs who has NFL experience to come in and be the guy, or if you drafted someone this offseason, like Maye, say he doesn't play this year, he starts next year, his third year, you're in the second year of the receiver, and Maye's third year, that kind of seems to play out well.
I mean, one of the things that I think you have to look at when you look at the quarterbacks who've really made it, it's hard to find a guy who's overcome bad circumstances. Now, I'm not saying like Mahomes or Lamar or Josh Allen wouldn't have made it as players if they didn't have great circumstances, but look what they were walking into. Lamar Jackson was on the Ravens, had a franchise left tackle, had an all-pro tight end, had, they brought in Hollywood Brown at receiver, who for a time was a really good player for them. At the beginning, he had Mark Ingram at running back. The Chiefs, I mean, that speaks for itself. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, 2 high-level tackles. Andy Reid is his coach. Josh Allen, they were on. He was in year 2 of a really successful rebuild. Say what you want about the Bills now, but that was a really successful rebuild. So, how many quarterbacks can you name that at a young age overcame bad circumstances? The only one I can think of is Andrew Luck.
Troy Aikman.
Yeah, but eventually those became really good circumstances.
Right.
But
I'm just thinking your rookie year.
Yeah, but your rookie year. But I mean, it's really hard to find a quarterback who overcame.
I can think of a million who didn't. If you ever want to feel bad for someone, as much as a bust that Josh Rosen is, there's a YouTube video on his career, and that's how I get my information. Mm-hmm. But, Josh Rosen, you just go, oh, he sucks. He had a bad attitude. He sucks. He's a rich kid. He sucks. He was put in pretty crappy circumstances over and over and over again that were well out of his control.
Right. Well, I mean, from the guy who drafted him, the coach who drafted him gets fired after 1 year, and they bring in a guy who has known the presumptive number 1 overall pick since he was 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Stuff like that. So I think that's you have to get ahead of that sort of thing. And again, you have no control over when these opportunities are going to come up. And if the opportunity comes up to trade for somebody like this, you have to be ready for it, And I think before the draft, the tricky thing about where the Patriots are is you are never going to trade the 3rd overall pick for Brandon Ayuk, right?
Right.
And the Niners were never going to take a 2nd rounder for him. So what do you do? And I think that's sort of the way that you have to look at trading high draft picks next year too. It's, if you're honest with yourself, how high is that pick going to be?
Very high.
If
you're the Patriots, you have to expect a top 5 pick next year.
Top 10.
Now you're not talking about a middle of the 1st round pick. You may be talking about the 4th pick or the 5th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So that's obviously got great value, and the Niners are going to look at that too, and they would that's why you might have like a real shot if you were really all in on it. And that's what makes it difficult because if like when the Colt, like to bring it back to the DeForest Buckner situation, right? Which DeForest Buckner was a better player than Brandon Ayuk when he got traded, like one of the best defensive linemen in football. And like the Colts flipped their first round pick for him. Well, the Colts thought they were pretty good. You know what I mean? Like the Colts thought they had a team that was close, and they thought that pick was going to be in the 20s. You know, and so it's a little different when you're in a position where you're rebuilding a little bit, and that pick might be in the top 5 or 10 picks.
Well, how about Carolina?
Yeah.
You know, you move up to number 1 and you give up your pick, and then there's a generational quarterback that
Caleb
gets
Williams
taken the next
first
year.
guy who's terrible.
Right. Right. So I think that like requires being honest with yourself, but I'm not against the idea of trading for him because like you cannot, especially now that you have your quarterback, because at some point you're going to want to give Drake Maye that kind of guy.
Right, I know.
And,
it's just
like,
the position in the pick in that
and
you need so
right.
much on this team. It just seems like a luxury in a year of a luxury where you don't need it.
And look what the Bears did. What the Bears have done. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good example of like the Bears really were in a position where Caleb Williams is walking in. Now, whether he makes it or not, we'll see. But he's walking into a fully formed situation. Like
some say the best. I've heard guys say this might be the best situation a quarterback has walked into ever in the NFL.
Yeah, as far as a number one overall pick. Yeah, I think that's fair because they weren't the worst team in the league. They finished. I mean, they won. I think they were like 5-4 in their last 9 games.
They were close to 5.
And they should have beat the Lions at the game.
But still, it was.
And they were.
But I think your point is it was painful for the franchise to get to that point and to not go away, you know, trading a couple of picks that they had opportunities to trade. They had to work at it, be in the position where they were not only taking one but two quarterbacks high in the draft and then be willing to part ways with one of them and get themselves to this point.
Right. And like they're now in a position where it's like Caleb Williams is going to be throwing to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze, who was the 9th pick in the draft. And he's got Cole Kmet at tight end. They signed DeAndre Swift. They drafted a tackle last year in Darnell Wright. That's a good, like that. That's not a bad situation. That's not the type of situation the first overall pick typically walks into. So, like, the charge for you as the Patriots now is to find a way to generate that situation for Drake Maye. And the trouble with it, like, is that when you're going to draft the guy in year one of, you know, which, like, look, if you love him, you take him. Don't worry about the rest of it, right? The trouble with that is, like, now, okay, like, instead of inserting the quarterback into the sort of situation that Lamar Jackson was thrown into, that Patrick Mahomes was thrown into, that Josh Allen was thrown into, and those guys were rare, and that those guys were drafted by playoff teams, all three of them, because the Chiefs and Bills traded up and because Lamar Jackson slipped in 2018. Like you look at like where the Patriots are, you have to find ways to accelerate that process so you can get enough around your quarterback. And so again, like you can't predict that the sort of situation with this sort of receiver is going to be available a year or two from now. So when it does land on your desk, you have to pay attention.
Okay, we're gonna have to break a little early, but Matthew Judon, is he gonna cause a ruckus this offseason?
I think, you know what I just explained with Jefferson, right? Like, and how he changes everything. Look at the pass rusher market. Now, Matthew Judon's much older than Nick Bosa. Not as good a player as Nick Bosa.
Yeah, he's not 25, 30 million, but he's not 6 either.
But yeah, that's the point I'm making. Is like Nick Bosa is making $34 million a year. Matthew Judon signed it. I think it was 16. No, I'm just trying to think now. No, 14. Right.
I think that's right.
I think it's 14.
I think it's 14.
13 and a half or 14. So Matthew Judon is now making like significantly less than half of what Nick Bosa is making. So like you have to find a way to either give him a market correction or look at the idea of trading him. And then part of this, guys, is the amount of guys that you paid and the amount of guys and the amount of guys that you took care of, which I think was the right thing to do. But when you pay Mike Nwenu 19, when you pay Ramondre Stevenson 7, when you pay Christian Barmore what you paid him, there's an effect to that where Matthew Judon's going to look at that and say, "Where's mine?" Because he's in a contract year too. And so whether it's by extending him, whether it's by giving him a raise for this year, like this is similar to that Stephon Gilmore situation a few years ago where you move money around and move money forward in his contract so you get the money quicker, knowing that this was going to be a problem on the back end, and now it is.
Why didn't they just trade him? Like, I didn't understand why they've held on to him these last couple years. Like, I guess because Belichick
Because he's
wouldn't.
hurt, too.
That's the other part of it. So is he going to be on the field a week from today, or is he going to hold out?
I don't know if he'll hold out.
Or it could be a hold in like Gilmore.
A hold in,
Yeah.
I think, is probably what you'll see. My guess would be, because that happened last year, too. Like, my guess would be, and it's easy for the team to couch that, too, is like, yeah, he's still working his way back.
That's right. He'll be on the side.
Yeah. So it's easy for them to couch that. But I would be surprised if he is like full bore, full go without a new contract.
All right, very good. Bert Breer, MMQB, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
On short notice.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.